find our easy not most effective way.
There's something that had happened to her. She's no longer with us at the moment. I'm sorry, to have to come straight out and tell you that. That's why I died. That's why I really did not want to speak to you on the phone.
This 35-year-old Tommy Lyle Carlton had planned the perfect murder.
Doing, brother? Thank God. Doing, man. Look at this stupid man in her car. I was hiding in the woods, man. I couldn't find her ID, so I snapped a picture and took off in the woods. Perfect, dude. But you can watch the news tonight or something. I'm sure it's gonna be on there. You know what I'm saying? So great. But I just wanted to show you where it's done. Sweet. All right.
But in exactly 17 minutes, he would witness the most shocking twist of his entire lifetime. For the first time on YouTube, we're presenting a case so full of shocking twists, you'll think it's a movie script. But it was all too real. In 1996, Tommy Lyle Carlton and Elizabeth Nicholas were both working as nurses at a medical facility in Florida when they met each other. The duo became friends quickly, and soon after, sparks began to fly. They got married later that same year, and their lives seemed to be blissful. In 1998, their son Eric was born. But with the birth of their only child, their marriage began to suffer. Tommy started to grow distant, and the couple found themselves arguing constantly over mundane issues. However, 6 weeks after the birth of their son, Elizabeth made a shocking discovery. While Elizabeth was recovering in the hospital after undergoing gallbladder surgery, she was visited by Tommy. He'd brought their son Eric to the hospital and told Elizabeth that she needed to keep him for the night. He then introduced her to a male companion before admitting to being gay. Tommy left the hospital for dinner with his companion, while Elizabeth felt the stirrings of betrayal rising in her chest. Over time, Tommy spent more time away from home with his male companions. Angered by Tommy's deceit and exhausted with the verbal altercations that had started to get physical, Elizabeth filed for divorce in 2000. After their divorce, Elizabeth and Tommy shared joint custody of Eric, but their son primarily lived with Elizabeth. For a while, their arrangement worked well. Tommy was also ordered to pay Elizabeth child support, which he did regularly. For the first few years, it was all going well, but soon, Tommy stopped making child support payments. It began after Elizabeth decided to start dating again. When she got into a serious relationship with a man named Jay Saltzman, the bitterness between the ex-spouses thickened. Not only had Tommy failed to make child support payments over a few years, he wanted to fight for custody for their son Eric. Tommy believed that Jay and Elizabeth were endangering his son's life. Tired of the ongoing conflict between herself and Tommy, Elizabeth filed for a motion to have the child support terms modified. After a few hurdles, she was finally given a court date for May 14, 2009. After Tommy received the order to appear for the hearing in January 2009, he took a complete U-turn. He stopped taking any of Elizabeth's calls and didn't make any contact with his son Eric. It was as if he erased himself from their lives. But it wouldn't be long before their lives were inexplicably intertwined once again. Tommy had sinister intentions for Elizabeth. He'd met a man named Ricky Donovan in June 2008 while attending Narcotics Anonymous, a non-profit fellowship. After striking up a friendship, Tommy told Ricky that he was looking for ways to take his wife out of the picture. According to Tommy, Elizabeth and her boyfriend Jay were harming his son Eric, and he wanted full custody of his child. Ricky then introduced him to another recovering addict named James Wood. Over the next few weeks, James and Tommy developed their own friendship. Like Tommy, James also had a son from a previous relationship. However, James hadn't seen his son for years, as his ex-girlfriend wanted nothing to do with him. It was then that Tommy revealed his plans to get rid of Elizabeth to James. These included poisoning Elizabeth and tampering with her car to make it look like an accident. Tommy went as far as to suggest that if James helped him kill Elizabeth, he would kill James's ex-girlfriend so that he could be with his son. Initially, James didn't take the situation seriously, but after Tommy kept talking about it every time they met, James offered him a solution. On May 4th, 2009, Tommy met James at the Quality Inn Hotel in Osceola County. James had informed Tommy about a friend named Billy who could help him to solve his problem. Without Tommy's knowledge, the meeting between James, Billy, and himself was being recorded by Billy, in case Tommy tried to back off later. At first, they began with casual conversation. Soon after, Tommy explained to Billy that he knew his son was being mistreated by his ex-wife and her new boyfriend.
He's with this guy who's beating the scrap out of my son. I can't see him, they don't let me see him, talk to him, nothing, he's still in there. He's like, call me up on the phone crying. The last time I talked to him, he called me on the phone, he was crying. He's like, come get me, man. And he's crying. He's fucking, he'll turn 11 in June.
Afterwards, the three men decided to get some food. Tommy appeared to be uncomfortable in the hotel room and asked both Billy and James if they wanted to sit in his car and talk.
Can we get on like my car and talk about it? I'm a little hesitant about this hotel room.
I don't give a fuck. I'm getting my goddamn truck or car or whatever, man.
Is that cool?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Alright.
All three of them went to Tommy's car and continued with the conversation. Tommy and Billy started discussing the finer details of the plan. He told Billy that it was only necessary to handle Elizabeth. Both men then discussed the time frame which Billy had to work with. Tommy informed him that he needed the job done by May 14th, 2009.
How soon do you need it done? Roughly before like the 14th. At least a day or two of research, you know what I'm saying? Figure out how I'm going to do it.
After agreeing on the time frame, they discussed how to get rid of Elizabeth. Tommy informed Billy that he didn't want his son to be anywhere nearby when everything happened. Billy explained that the best method would be a single gunshot to the head.
I plan on using the gun. The most effective way is awesome. My God. Got me back there.
Billy then told Tommy about his fee for the job.
Who's that boss? How do you want it done? I don't want it loud. But I want 500 up front and then 15 when it's done. And if I do a business deal with them, I ain't gonna go knocking on your door every day.
They both agreed on a $500 down payment by Friday, May 8th, 2009, followed up by 3 payments of $500 over a period of 6 weeks. After they settled on the payment and how to take care of Elizabeth, Billy told Tommy to start developing an alibi in case the police started looking at him as a suspect. Tommy agreed to make himself visible throughout the week to avoid any suspicion. On the afternoon of May 6, 2009, Billy met with Tommy at a Dairy Queen parking lot in Kissimmee, Florida, to discuss the plan going forward. Again, the meeting was recorded. This time, Tommy decided to drive Billy around the city as he showed him pictures of his son Eric and his ex-wife Elizabeth.
Well, just
Rolling
drive
around like crazy. Alright,
Just gonna keep driving, keep moving.
go make a big loop or something.
Yeah. So, look in here, I got the pictures of my son and stuff in there.
Okay, cool. Can I? Oh.
That's about 3 years ago. This is most recent. He hasn't changed much. I'm not.
Tommy again started complaining about his relationship with his ex-wife. He went on and on about his fear for Eric's safety and the nightmares he'd been having. They then agreed to contact each other around midday on Friday, May 8th, 2009, before Tommy dropped Billy off at the Dairy Queen parking lot.
I don't know what.
Early afternoon's better for me, so noon, 1, 2, that.
Yeah. How about like between 1 and 2, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
At 3 p.m. on Friday, May 8th, 2009, both men agreed to meet at a Walmart parking lot in Osceola County. They took a short drive around the area, and Tommy handed over $500 to Billy.
It's all in. Just email holler, let me know when you want me to, visit my friend.
It was then agreed that Billy was going to head to Elizabeth's house, and Tommy was told to wait for a call to create an alibi.
No problem. I'm gonna haul out away now, because yesterday she got off at 6:30 anyway, so. don't know if you've ever been to that job, but it's heaven. It's fun. It's a sweet spot.
Tommy continued with his daily work routine and visited patients at their homes to set up IV drips. Hours later, he received a call from Billy to make sure he was caught on camera, to which Tommy agreed. Shortly afterwards, Billy contacted Tommy and said they needed to meet at the Walmart again.
Dylan, brother. Thank God. Dylan, man, look at this stupid man in her car. I was hiding in the woods, man. I couldn't find her ID, so I snapped a picture and then took off in the woods. Perfect, dude. But you can watch the news tonight or something. I'm sure it's gonna be on there. You know what I'm saying? So great. But I just wanted to show you to know where you know it's done. Sweet. All right. Oh, thank God. All right, man.
Tommy showed signs of relief that the job was done, and both men parted ways, agreeing to maintain their alibis and avoid complications. Moments after Tommy exited Billy's car, he received a call from Detective Irving Molina of the Osceola Sheriff's Department. He then drove down to the station and met with Detective Molina and his partner detective, Brett Roller. Once the formalities were out of the way, Molina explained that they'd been told to contact Tommy by Jay Saltzman, Elizabeth's boyfriend. Molina then told Tommy that something bad had happened to Elizabeth.
That's my ex-wife.
It's your ex-wife?
Yeah.
First of all, the reason why I wanted to talk to you today was something did happen to her, and I want to try to get information from anyone who can tell me anything about her. Okay?
Okay. What happened to her?
You're a doctor, or I'm sorry,
I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse. Okay, so
Not a doctor yet.
There's something that had happened to her. She's no longer with us at the moment. I'm sorry, to have to come straight out and tell you that. That's why
She died?
That's why I really did not want to speak to you on the phone.
Tommy didn't have much of a reaction and asked both detectives if she was dead. They told him that was why he was called to the station, because the news was serious. Soon after, Detective Molina asked Tommy about his marriage to Elizabeth. It was then that Tommy told detectives about his volatile relationship with Elizabeth.
Disney.
How were you guys when you guys were married?
When we were married, she slept around with me 3 times. The night that that we split up, I came home early from a patient's house, and she was shooting up my kid with something. And that's all on record in Orlando. She had a needle stuck in his arm. She was shooting him up to get him to go to sleep.
With what?
Don't know. I was exhausted. I'd been up for like 40 some hours, and I kicked her out of the house and took Eric and went in the bedroom and pretty much just kind of passed out. When I woke up, she come and got Eric and took him, and she went to South Dakota, and it was just a big mess, the whole thing. But that's just the norm for her. She just makes up crap, and it's just ridiculous.
He explained that she was a compulsive liar and had accused him of assault. He didn't paint a very good picture of Elizabeth to the police. Tommy then went on to say that it was Elizabeth who kept him away from his son and also accused her of drugging Eric in order to make him sleep. Tommy went on to reveal to the detectives that his son Eric had complained to his best friend, Mary Andrews, about Jay. According to Mary, Jay had been abusive toward Eric.
I called and said, "Oh, you want to talk with Mary?" He's like, "Yeah." And she told him that Eric told Mary that that Jay was throwing him across the room, throwing him on the ground, putting his knee in his back, slamming up against a mirror, and there was a big DCF case about it. And
Tommy explained that he stopped paying child support on purpose in order for Elizabeth to take him to court. He wanted to use that opportunity to expose Elizabeth's lies and double standards. Detective Molina then asked Tommy if he knew where Elizabeth was currently living, to which he replied that he believed she'd moved in with her boyfriend. He continued to deny knowing her current address and said he'd had no contact with neither Elizabeth nor Eric recently. Detective Roller then asked Tommy about his daily routine and what he'd done earlier that same day. Tommy explained his routine and included the patients he visited and the time at which he was expected at each location. He told detectives that he spent a long time talking to his neighbor, Mindy, and because of this was delayed for his next appointment. When he discovered the patient was away from home, he returned to his own apartment before going to set up his final drip for the day. As he passed the Walmart, he decided to stop and buy flowers for his final patient of the day, but received the call from Detective Molina and went straight to the station.
Said, well, we'll do another patient. So I started to head out to go see Mr. Desmond Martin. He's a patient out in Point Siena. And I saw the Walmart there, and I stopped by. I was going to get some flowers, and didn't, and then that's whenever he called me.
So you were just getting off the turnpike?
Yeah, I just pulled into your parking lot.
You were shopping?
After asking Tommy more questions about the type of person Elizabeth was, both Molina and Roller explained that they were investigating Elizabeth's death as a possible homicide. To this, Tommy said that Elizabeth was known to anger people and that she didn't care about people's feelings. He even remarked that he hated Elizabeth.
Everybody in the universe knows that because of the way she treated me. I mean, she slept around me 3 times, keeps my son from me, the love of my life, and, that's, everybody knows that. But whatever happened, I had nothing to do with it. I mean.
But Molina and Roller then asked Tommy if he had any friends in Kissimmee, to which he said none, other than his patients. Then they showed him a picture of Elizabeth after she'd been shot, and he didn't show much interest other than asking about Eric's whereabouts.
And where's my son? I mean,
Your son is sick. Promise you. It's the first place we went. Yeah.
he didn't see nothing happen. He wasn't in the car or nothing.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Everything was going according to the plan for Tommy. He really thought he was going home, but his reality was about to be rocked. Tommy's worst nightmares were only just beginning. He'd planned the perfect murder, but what was about to happen next only happens in movies.
You ever met this guy before?
I have.
I want to introduce this thing. This is an agent from the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. Okay.
Okay.
Here.
The hitman he'd hired to kill his ex-wife was standing in front of him. Actually, Billy, the hitman, was an undercover cop. This was the very same man James Wood introduced him to at the Quality Inn Hotel and who Tommy had hired to kill Elizabeth. Roller and Molina then revealed that they'd been investigating him for over 2 weeks.
For probably, 2 weeks now? All right, ever since you met Billy?
Before that.
All right.
Okay.
Now we understand everything that's happened.
So,
Between you and Billy. What we don't understand, and I wouldn't like to leave it up to my assumption, is why? Is there something that we don't know that we should know?
I'm not following.
why would you take the steps that you did to get rid of your wife?
I didn't take any steps to get rid of my wife.
Have you been meeting with Billy the last week?
I saw him, like twice.
Okay. Billy is Agent Griffin. He has been my partner for 5 years. You understand that?
Okay.
So where he goes, I go. So everywhere you've been with him, I've been there with him and with you. Now I understand from the moment that you guys first met, even prior to the moment that you guys first met. But please understand that before I come across you, I don't know you. I didn't know Elizabeth. So I don't understand what would drive a person to that point. There has to be a reason. There has to be a good reason. And I don't want to write down my assumptions of what I've known from you or I know of you. What I want to know is what you really tell me as to why, what happened, what pushed you to that point, to where we are right now.
They also revealed that Griffin had been working undercover to expose Tommy's conspiracy to murder Elizabeth. Molina implored Tommy to explain himself and why he'd gone through with the plan to kill his ex-wife. Tommy's sudden change in demeanor became obvious. Sergeant Black, the head of the Violent Crimes Unit who had led the investigation, entered the room. Black showed Tommy the money he'd paid Billy and walked him through the entire week's worth of surveillance footage. There was yet another twist in the story. His ex-wife was actually alive.
You recognize that?
There's $100 bills.
Do you recognize it?
I've had $100 bills before.
Did you give?
I've never seen a package before.
Did you give Agent Griffin any money?
Did I give Agent Griffin? Who's Agent Griffin?
Billy.
Billy.
Let me tell you what you did, okay? You met him in a hotel room, okay? You went inside and had a conversation. You went in there for over 27 minutes. And was it 22 seconds, 27 minutes, 22 seconds? You came out, you walked outside because you didn't want to do anything inside the hotel room because you were trying to be smart, but you really wasn't smart. Then you walked out there, and you talked about it and said you wouldn't give me any details, because you was a pretty smart guy. So you walked outside, all three of you did. You walked outside, you talked to him for a few minutes, and you said you just want out of the way, then you discussed the price. $500 up front, $500 over 2 weeks, because you only get paid over 2 weeks. Okay? Am I upset so far? Now, I don't want to give you too much information, and all he's trying to do is find out why. Be honest with you, I don't really give a crap why. I mean, it's you. We're trying to find out why you did it.
It's for your benefit. It's not for ours.
Then let me finish.
You did what you did.
Then you left. You went up to the hotel room up there, and we went to the front lobby and said, hey, I got a friend lives in 154. I want to rent the room next door too. And they take you something else. See you leave from there, then you go and you go out westbound on 192. Now you go 1.3 miles, you turn around, you come back in the hotel, you go on the east side, you get out and walk around a little bit over, and you look around a little bit more, and you come out, and the guy confronts you again, so I'm just having a cigarette before I leave. Then you get up and leave, and you go somewhere else. Then we call you again. I got the exact times, got your voice, got your video. You really didn't want to get in the truck. I got everything, Really, I don't even need to talk to you. I can just lock you up, take you over there, and I'm done for the night, go home for Mother's Day. Okay? You hear me? What we're just trying to find out is your opportunity as to why. Well, as to why. If you don't want to say why, then fine. We're done. I don't care.
It was then that Roller told Tommy that Elizabeth was still alive and that the evidence they'd collected was enough to have him locked away. Tommy then asked for a lawyer.
So will you let me see a lawyer?
What? Do you want a lawyer? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, obviously that's what you guys
Listen to me, take it too. This is a simple question. Do you want a lawyer? Do you want an attorney? You want to stop talking? If you tell me yes, you want an attorney, you want to stop talking, and we're done. And we'll take you over to jail. It's up to you. That's a simple question. Do you want an attorney?
Yes.
All right, we're done. Stand up now. Stand up. Put your hands on your back.
He was arrested for solicitation to commit murder and attempted murder. He was held at the Osceola County Jail without bond. In the weeks that followed, Tommy decided to represent himself and was ultimately told about the sting operation by the investigation team. In early May 2009, James Wood contacted Sheriff's Deputy David Snyder, a family friend. He told Snyder that he'd met a man named Tommy Carlton through a friend from Narcotics Anonymous. James went on to explain that Tommy was looking for someone to help with killing his ex-wife, Elizabeth Nicholas. James told Snyder that initially he didn't believe Tommy was serious about it, but after the topic was brought up several times, he started to grow concerned. On May 4th, 2009, James, along with Deputy Snyder, met with Sergeant Wiley Black of the Osceola County Sheriff's Violent Crime Unit. James and Sergeant Black sat down with Detectives Molina and Roller. All three officers questioned James, and he relayed the story of Tommy Carlton. It was then decided that they'd bring in Lieutenant Howard Griffin, who often worked undercover, to help investigate Tommy Carlton.
I received a phone call from our Violent Crimes Unit, and basically they told me that I need to come in and meet up, and they briefed me on what they had at the time, which ultimately was Tommy Carlton, who was trying to find someone to murder his ex-wife.
Under the guidance of all three officers, James made a phone call to Tommy and arranged a meeting that evening at the local Quality Inn Hotel. Once the meeting was agreed upon, officers started working on setting up surveillance and prepping Griffin for his role as Hitman Billy. The first meeting between Tommy and Billy was also to take place that evening as the Violent Crimes Unit began setting up surveillance in the hotel's adjoining room. During the first meeting, Tommy showed signs of anxiety as he felt the hotel room might have been bugged. He was assured by James and Billy that no such thing had been happening. Tommy then left the room to get a pen, and as he made his way out, he began to feel paranoid. On a whim, he looked into the adjoining room through a slit in the curtain. Tommy was sure he got a glimpse of a metal briefcase with a listening device on the desk. He returned to James's room and informed them of his suspicions, but when all three men took a second look, nothing was there. Feeling uneasy, they decided to sit in Tommy's car and discuss what to do with Elizabeth, which was all recorded. A plan was hatched and payment agreed upon before all three men went their own ways. Over the course of 5 days, Tommy met with Agent Griffin 3 more times. During these meetings, Tommy provided pictures of both Elizabeth and their son, Eric. Both men had also agreed on the method of murder with regard to Elizabeth and parted ways. In the meantime, officers made contact with Elizabeth and explained what Tommy had been planning. She agreed to help with their operation in order to catch Tommy in the act. With Elizabeth on board, Agent Griffin prepared to meet with Tommy for a third time on May 8, 2009. During this meeting, Tommy paid Griffin an amount of $500 with a promise of a further $1,500 over the next 6 weeks. Thereafter, both men parted ways as the sheriff's office prepared to set up the crime scene. As officers took the required pictures of Elizabeth for Tommy's benefit, Griffin called him and told him to start setting up an alibi. After everything was done, both men agreed to meet that Friday evening at the same Walmart. With detectives Molina and Roller watching the interaction from a surveillance van, Griffin showed Tommy the photo of Elizabeth. Once Tommy left Griffin's car, he was contacted by Detective Molina to stop by the sheriff's office regarding an issue with Elizabeth. Tommy Carlton went on trial on February 7, 2011 at the Osceola County Court, with Judge Scott Palladna presiding over the case. The prosecution, led by attorney Michelle Heller, argued that Tommy Carlton wanted his ex-wife dead and that he showed no remorse throughout the planning of her murder.
The defendant, Tommy Carlton, hated his ex-wife, and he wanted her dead, and he hired Billy, the undercover hitman, to do so. When Deputy Griffin shows him the cell phone photo, what is his reaction? You'll see it and you'll hear it. Sweet, he says. He's happy. In fact, he's certain he wants her dead, out of the way, out of the picture. He just doesn't want to be caught.
She used the video and audio footage collected by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office during their sting operation to show the calm demeanor in which he executed his plan without a thought for anyone but himself. The defense, led by attorney Mark Consalo, argued that law enforcement orchestrated the entire situation. He pointed out that not once had Tommy uttered the words murder or kill when speaking about Elizabeth on the video and audio recordings. Consalo also pointed out that Tommy was a victim of entrapment by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office.
During jury selection, we talked about a concept called entrapment. You're going to hear videos, the actual words uttered by Mr. Carlton. Because if you listen to the actual words Mr. Carlton uttered, you're never going to hear something that says, I want her dead. I want you to kill her.
Following the opening statements by both the state and defense, witnesses that included the officers from the sting operation, police informant James Wood, and Tommy's ex-wife were questioned under oath. Agent Howard Griffin's testimony included his interactions with both James and Tommy and the entire interaction as captured on camera. He also testified that Tommy had set a deadline to have the job completed before May 14, 2009. James Wood testified that Tommy had approached him on several occasions and the topic always turned to getting rid of Elizabeth. Detectives Molina and Roller testified in court about the entire sting operation and how they had put it all together. They provided further testimony of how Tommy's behavior changed during the interrogation after finding out he'd been caught.
Did you believe that Mr. Carlton wanted to kill his ex-wife?
Yes.
Okay. And are you able to articulate to the jury why you believed that?
Why I believe that?
Yeah.
I feel like he was very passionate about feeling like
to relevance, the speculation objection.
Overrule. You mean?
Go ahead.
I feel like he was very passionate about feeling that he was wrong by his wife, and that for some reason he felt like all his problems would be solved basically if she passed away. I tried to communicate to him and had a discussion with him about, how he would feel with, his son being with him and knowing that, he had something to do with his son's mom passing away. And he didn't seem to care. I kind of tried to offer that because really I was trying to talk him out of it or throw out ideas that would kind of, make him feel like, that maybe it wasn't a good idea, but basically after he wanted to go through with it after that, I pretty much knew he was pretty serious.
Elizabeth Nicholas took the stand and testified about her relationship with Tommy and the revelation he made about being gay. She told the jury that she did not believe that Tommy wanted custody of Eric because of her past experience with him. Rather, she believed he was trying to get out of paying the child support he owed her.
When our son Eric was 6 weeks old, I had my gallbladder out and I was in the hospital. He brought a man to my hospital room and he told me that he was gay and he was going out with him for dinner and he left me with the baby.
How would you describe the years since you've been divorced? Just if you had one word to describe them.
Roller coaster.
Tommy then took the stand in his own defense. He told the court that he never wanted to have Elizabeth killed. Rather, he wanted someone to scare both Elizabeth and her new boyfriend so that she'd stop denying him access to Eric.
So he showed up. I said, you want to take care of the problem, be able to see my son. I didn't say, to be able to kill my ex-wife. It was to be able to see my son, and where I can actually protect him again and see him and guard over him so that he's not being beat when I'm not there.
Detective Griffin says, I know, just tell me what you need done and I'll decide how it's going to work. Your response is, what's it going to cost? His is, what do you want done? You say, them taken out of the way so my son can come live with me. Explain to the jury what you meant when you said that.
Well, yeah, at first he says, what were you thinking? What do you want done? And then he says, I don't work for free. So I said, well, what were you thinking of doing? And then you go back and forth a couple of times there, and then I say, well, what were you thinking price-wise? Because he tacked on the other things. I didn't even know what we were talking about at that point. And then he added in the money issue. So I'm thinking, he was wanting my gas money, because nothing's been specified at all. Frequently, I would give James Wood gas money because he didn't have a job, didn't have nothing. So I didn't know what we were talking about. I didn't know if the guy was going to want drugs to do something or what. Nothing was specified. And in my head, I'm thinking that all that needs to be done to solve this is to have somebody show up and catch Liz walking out of the apartment or something and say, hey, we know that your kid's being beat by this guy. And then just imply, as a show of force, a verbal harangue that don't make us come back, and just let her decide what that means. This is a visual, this verbal incentive, an implication that something would happen if she didn't, just to see if that would stop it, because nothing was going. That's what I'm thinking is happening, because nothing's been specified otherwise. And so that was the first thought of me. Not, that's why I said I wanted to be able to see my son, not take out, kill, murder my ex-wife.
Tommy also testified that James was a spurned lover that twisted the story of a murder-for-hire plot. Tommy also mentioned that he didn't fully understand Agent Griffin's words during every meeting due to his hearing disability. Both sides gave their closing arguments on February 10, 2011. The state urged the jury to consider the evidence from the surveillance footage against the testimony given by Tommy Carlton. The state also asked for the jury to consider the testimony given by the victim, Elizabeth herself. The defense maintained its argument of entrapment and asked the jury to consider that the law tried to bend the case in their favor. It didn't take the jury long to decide Tommy's fate. On the afternoon of February 10, 2011, the jury found Tommy guilty on both charges.
Division 201, State of Florida versus Tommy Lyle Carlton. Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Kissimmee, Osceola County, Florida, on this 10th day of February 2011, signed by the foreperson. Verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of attempted first-degree murder as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Kissimmee, Osceola County, Florida, on this 10th day of February 2011, signed by the foreperson.
On April 8, 2011, Tommy Carlton's sentencing hearing was held. Elizabeth took the stand to deliver a victim impact statement. During the speech, she told the judge that as long as Tommy stayed in jail, it would be best for both her and her son, Eric. She also told the court that Tommy was a good person in the beginning, but over the years, he changed and became a liar who was determined to destroy people's lives. She then apologized to everyone affected by Tommy.
My life in the past 2 years has been nothing short of a roller coaster ride, not only for me, but my son, our son, my husband. And, my son used to look forward to going and seeing his dad. When is my dad gonna call? When is my dad gonna come and get me? And now he comes and he asks me, is daddy still in jail? Are we safe? And I have to go to the website and say, yeah, okay, he's still in jail. My life is not what it started out to be. I don't know where it's going. I don't know from one day to the next. I'm gonna be happy or sad. Everybody asks me how I feel. There's not a word that I know of that could describe adequately what I feel, because I feel them all at once. And everybody asks me if I hate Tom. No, I don't hate him. I loved him so much at one time. And now all I want to ask him and I want to know is why. Because it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know that person anymore. It's not a person that I could ever trust again to be. I just don't know.
Tommy was sentenced to 22 years in prison and ordered to have no direct or indirect contact with Elizabeth. Although he was not denied contact with his son, Eric, the boy has opted not to contact his father. Tommy has also lost both appeals to have his sentence reviewed by the state. Tommy Carlton's actions showed the depraved side of an individual who is willing to kill the mother of his child without considering the effect on his son. If anything, Tommy was motivated by greed, jealousy, and the need to control, and that has led to his isolation from the people who once cared for him. So, looking back at today's case, do you think that Tommy got the justice he deserved? Would you consider James Wood a brave individual for reaching out to police when he felt something was wrong? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you found today's video interesting, please consider subscribing to M7 Crime Storytime, hit the like button, and share our videos with other crime aficionados. Also, if you have any crime story that you'd like us to cover, leave us a message in the comment section below. Until next time, stay safe.